Thanks for joining us here on Eye on Africa, our daily look across the continent here on France 24. Our main stories. Democratic Republic of Congo is set to vote in general elections. Insecurity in the east is among the main concerns as an East African force has begun withdrawing, and UN peacekeepers also say they will begin drawing down a year ahead of schedule. In Sudan, hundreds of thousands of people flee the key aid hub of Wad Madani as paramilitary forces take the city from the army. Since fighting broke out in April, some 500,000 people have fled to Jazeera state, of which Wad Madani is the capital. And at least 100 elephants are found dead in Zimbabwe's Hwange National Park. Wildlife authorities say climate change and El Niño are to blame, and that other animal populations are also at risk. Good day, good evening to you wherever you're watching. Thanks for joining us here on France 24. First up, after widespread fears of delays, polls are set to open this Wednesday in Democratic Republic of Congo. Organising general elections in Africa's second largest country has been a logistical nightmare, with 44 million people registered to vote in over 75,000 polling stations. Tens of thousands of observers are to monitor the electoral process, with voting scheduled to begin at 6 a.m. local time. This report now from Kinshasa with France 24's Andrew Hillier and Melina Ue.
Sunday service in the heart of Kinshasa. The cathedral pews are packed with hundreds of worshippers, followers of the Church of Christ in the Congo, commonly known as the Protestant Church. But the church does more than preach. It has big clout in politics too, deploying thousands of observers to monitor voting on election day, a move that reassures this congregation.
It's important that the Church of Christ in the Congo and other churches too are involved, because we'll have more faith in the results when they're published. Things will be carried out in full transparency.
It'd be far more complicated to hold elections without observers. Firstly, there'd be disorder, and secondly, there'd be cheating.
We want democracy, we want transparency, and we want to reassure ourselves that things are going well. You know, for a long time, politicians here used brute force to seize power. Nowadays, people don't want that anymore. You have to be elected.
Thousands of observers will be sent by Congolese civil society groups and regional organizations like the African Union. Both the Protestant and Catholic Church will deploy some 30,000 observers each. But whatever group they belong to, they'll have a clear-cut role once inside the polling station.
We're
going to ensure that polling booths are open on time, that voting equipment is correctly distributed and works properly. The observers will also monitor the attitudes of agents from the Electoral Commission and how they behave. They'll observe the queues of voters, how they arrive, their attitude and frame of mind, and also how long it takes to vote.
They'll still have a role to play even after the vote ends. So-called long-term observers will make sure official results tally with their own findings. But even if observers do cry foul, it's the Electoral Commission that'll have the final say.
A report from our team there in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we can now get more from Andrew Hillier in Kinshasa on the observer mission and the challenges of organising these general elections.
Organising these elections has been a bit of a logistical nightmare for the Electoral Commission. There are, of course, not just presidential elections happening here, but parliamentary, provincial and municipal elections taking place across what is Africa's second largest country. What's more, many polling stations are only reachable by helicopter and plane, making it extremely difficult for the Electoral Commission to deliver voting equipment to the most far-flung areas. Indeed, many roads have been turned to mud because we're in the middle of the rainy season here in Democratic Republic of Congo. But nevertheless, the Electoral Commission insisting that Wednesday's vote will go ahead as planned.
Well, for many Congolese abroad, the security situation in the east of DRC is the major election issue. The region has endured decades of fighting, most recently with the M23 rebel group fighting government forces. Some in the Congolese diaspora in Belgium want to draw attention to the issue and want to denounce what they see as the West's indifference. Take a look.
Poor network quality doesn't always make it possible, but as soon as she can, Maddie Tiembe gets news from Goma.
Mama Isaac!
These two women are part of the 7 million displaced people in eastern DRC. There, armed groups are terrorizing the population.
We fled the rebels who relentlessly pursued us. We sleep outside without having a place to lay our heads. I was with my neighbor, but she died. Her head was cut off after torturing her to death.
Maddie has heard stories like these for over 20 years, but recently the situation has gotten worse and she's overcome with emotion.
I'm so sorry, because here in Belgium it seems like people don't care. Our hope, unfortunately, is dwindling. There's fighting. There are 3 more days of very, very, very violent fighting.
Indifference is also what this Congolese man, who wants to remain anonymous, denounces. He comes from the ranks of the Combattants, a group made up of members of the diaspora who seek to raise awareness about the situation in DRC, sometimes in a violent manner. He says he won't vote in the next elections.
Elections cannot be organised in an occupied country. Today in the Congo, we are in a situation where Rwanda continues to attack us. There are the M23 rebels, a movement financed by Rwanda that continues to occupy the country.
In the meantime, more than 60 years after the independence of Congo from Belgium, the parliaments of the two countries have signed a cooperation agreement.
In Europe and here in Belgium, which has a fairly blatant historical link with the Democratic Republic of Congo, I am shocked that very few people dare to raise their voices.
For this academic, there is little hope that the next election will change the situation.
A good part of the province of North Kivu and even the province of Ituri will not vote. Why? Well, because these are regions where armed groups are active, and I have difficulty seeing how the Commission will be able to organise elections in these territories.
The only glimmer of hope for these populations is that the future president seeks to meet security expectations in these regions.
Alex Le Bourdon and Dave Keating in Brussels there. And in other news, the United Nations Security Council is also to begin a gradual drawdown of its peacekeepers in Democratic Republic of Congo. This after a resolution just voted on Tuesday. The process is to begin a year ahead of schedule, in line with a request from Kinshasa, which says the UN's MONUSCO force is ineffective. This despite no sign of the violence in eastern DRC abating. Next up to Sudan, where the UN has expressed alarm after some 250 to 300,000 people fled Wad Madani, southeast of Khartoum, this key city for people displaced by months of fighting. It comes after the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces took control of the city from the army, which confirmed it had withdrawn. Hundreds of thousands of people have fled to Jazeera state, of which Wad Madani is the capital, since fighting began in April. At least 9,000 people have died across the country. Mathilde Vu with the Norwegian Refugee Council says people are desperate as they are once again forced to flee.
People are coming every hour, large number of people, families that look absolutely terrified and panicked. For many of them, they're coming with barely anything, like they have one bag and that's all. And they're wandering in the streets of Sennar looking for a place to stay. They are panicked because they don't think that they will be safe as well where they are. And they're also traumatized because it's not the first time that they had to flee for their lives. It's actually more than a city being attacked right now. It's really one of Sudan's few sanctuaries that is becoming a war zone. And, you know, it's been now 8 months of war. And what we're seeing today is that one of Sudan's most important cities and one of Sudan's most important economic center has become a war zone. We had already more than 6 million people being displaced in Sudan and across the border. It's already one of the largest displacement crises in the world. And just in the past 3 days, we had more than 300,000 people fleeing. So what we're looking at is really an inflection point in the war, with more people fleeing, more humanitarian needs anticipated, and sadly, I have to say, less and less hope.
Mathilde Vu with the Norwegian Refugee Council speaking to us from Nairobi. Finally, to Zimbabwe, where wildlife authorities have issued a warning after at least 100 elephants were found dead in Hwange National Park. Experts say climate change and the El Niño weather effect are to blame, and that other animal populations are also at risk. This report from Clemence Foller contains images that some viewers may find distressing.
Fear and worry loom over Zimbabwe's wildlife. In Hwange National Park, home to over 45,000 elephants, at least 100 pachyderms were found dead in recent weeks, victims of the long-standing drought which have dried up the watering holes. For the country's Parks and Wildlife Management Authority, climate change is one of the main culprits.
This period, especially up until the onset of the rain season, it means there's less water in the park and less food. So climate change needs to be taken seriously, because the irregular patterns and the shifting of seasons, because you'd see that the animals will be moving long distances in search of water.
Zimbabwe's rainy season once started reliably in October and ran through to March. In recent years, the cycle has become more erratic, sometimes only beginning in December. Many fear that the current drought will lead to a repeat of 2019, when over 200 elephants died due to a lack of water.
The anticipated deaths of elephants and other species, such as we're seeing in Zimbabwe right now, must be seen as a symptom of deep-seated and complex challenges affecting the region's natural resources conservation, aggravated by climate change.
Elephants are a key ally in fighting climate change through their role in preserving the ecosystem. As they travel long distances, their dung contain plant seeds and enable forests to spread, regenerate, and flourish.
And that's it for the moment here on Eye on Africa. But do stay with us. Up next, we've got the international headlines for you here on France 24. Do stay with us.